This podcast studies the implications of the Abu Dhabi takeover for SANTOS. We shall also discuss the energy transition endgame from the point of view of the customers, large enterprise customers, small and medium businesses, and residential. The proposed takeover has a lot of implications, and we can expect that as the time of this recording, the government will be sweating on whether to allow it or not. Apparently, the Abu Dhabi offer, in conjunction with private equity outfit Carlyle, is the highest cash offer ever in Australian history. It does make one wonder just how important our energy industries are. They are wanting to pay $8.98 Australian, valuing SANTOS at 36 billion Aussie, but this is only $5 to $6 per share. You've got to be kidding. Let's look at previous takeover offers for SANTOS. In October 2015, SANTOS rejected a takeover offer of $6.88 per share from Middle East and Asian investors, valuing the company at $7 billion. At that time, SANTOS was just starting to get the LNG export facility in Gladstone on stream. Then in May 2018, Harbour Energy offered $6.91 per share Aussie, valuing the company at $14 billion, doubling its capitalisation from 2015, no doubt due to cash starting to roll in from the operational Gladstone LNG plant. The Harbour Energy offer was rejected. In September 2021, SANTOS got bigger, merging with Oil Search, which added PNG and Alaskan Energy Resources. Perhaps that was a way of fending off future takeover offers, which had obviously undervalued the company. But in early 2024, Woodside and SANTOS were in merger talks. This was touted as an $80 billion merger, with Woodside weighing in at $50 billion and SANTOS $30 billion. The merger talks were called off in February 2024. Perhaps Woodside had bigger fish to fry in the US, where they're building an LNG export terminal. So as usual, they saw better opportunities in the US. So the Abu Dhabi consortium is only offering an extra $6 billion above the abandoned merger of early 2024. Not much extra, really. It's also instructive to note that based on 2023 trade figures, Abu Dhabi exports $174 billion in petroleum products, but only $5 billion in LNG. That would be a minnow compared to Qatar's gas energy exports. So they are looking at their LNG powerhouse neighbour in Qatar and wishing to diversify and catch up with them. And of course, the added bonus of Australia is that it's closest to the Southeast Asian energy markets. So the government faces an interesting decision. When you roll in the energy transition and assume there'll be need for gas, especially on the Australian East Coast, then hey Houston, we have a problem. We hear all the time in the media how Western Australia has a gas reservation policy and the east coast of Australia doesn't. Back in the noughties, 3 consortiums got started in Gladstone building the export LNG facilities. SANTOS partnered with Malaysian, French and Korean interests. Origin Energy partnered with Chinese and US interests, and the third operator, Shell, partnered with Japanese and Chinese interests. To get it all started, the various overseas interests co-invested on the basis of guaranteed supply into the future. At the time, government didn't bother with an East Coast reservation policy. Probably didn't want to damage the investment case, or at least that's what the proponents would have told them. Well, here we are some years on, and we have an energy transition underway, which we are now told will need gas firming capacity. Okay, hindsight is a wonderful thing, but useless. Regarding the energy transition, I do start to wonder if the federal and state governments are hedging their bets and going crazy on household battery subsidies, hoping that these may help to stabilise renewables. The New South Wales government has recently admitted that more progress could be made in this endeavour. Not surprising, really, in the light of slow transmission rollout. For example, the V&I West Link has doubled in cost. And then we have the added difficulty of landholders holding up approvals for projects such as Narrabri. Well, so now batteries are the great hope, and maybe in deindustrialised Australia with lots of sun and residential take-up, we may get away with it. Not quite the option though for overseas export-intensive manufacturing countries who send us their manufactured exports in exchange for raw materials. Personally, I don't think I would spend a lot of money on a 10 or 20 kilowatt hour house battery, but would prefer to wait a couple of years for an EV to turn up, probably Chinese, which has a 60 to 100 kilowatt hour battery. But of course, this will depend on how and when manufacturers get round to supporting vehicle to grid and vehicle to house protocols. V2G and V2H are gaining traction on LinkedIn discussion forums. And depending on how you manage your transport between work, family and play will probably be the way to go in the future. It does seem a bit of a holy grail to have the car charge the house at peak times and recharge the car at work or off-peak. V2H might be a better option than V2G, as the local pole and wires transformers are going to need upgrading if residential two-way charging takes off, and utility pricing is likely to make VPP participation a more attractive offer than feed-in tariffs. Nevertheless, V2H may lead to the problem of where do you charge the next morning? Leave enough charge to make it back to the charging station. Whatever. Meanwhile, we have the government's watchdog, the ACCC, Australian Consumer and Competition Commission, checking gas supplies on the East Coast and predicting a shortfall for domestic gas in Q4 2025. So if the ACCC is worried about gas on the East Coast, how could the government go and give away SANTOS? So if the takeover gets up, are we going to see the ACCC champion a series of undertakings that would guarantee East Coast gas firming capacity all the way out to 2050? Assuming Abu Dhabi only wants the Gladstone plant and the Queensland feeder gas, and maybe the Barossa gas due this year, and Alaskan Picker project due in 2026, the onshore domestic gas industry could be redrawn as the takeover party offers to divest Santos domestic assets such as the Cooper Basin. So smaller players such as Beach Energy could rush into the fray to snap up these domestic gas assets. So does the takeover offer government a fast-track solution with a get-out-of-jail card for the energy transition? Of course, who knows what Queensland gas reserves are like for domestic and export, as rumours abound that Santos has great chillers but not enough gas in Queensland for them. We may hear excuses like, if this takeover is rejected, then foreigners won't invest here, etc. So a proposed divestiture of domestic inland gas may be happy days for the government. Hey, guess what? The perfect solution. Foreign investors are happy and we get the gas we need for the energy transition. Win-win, as they say. But could another offer emerge? Okay, on that basis, I'd like to suggest something along those lines. It does smack of government intervention, but the government should encourage Santos and Woodside to merge. So yes, I'll put my hand up and be guilty for creating a national champion or supporting the idea. So if Santos is gone, the government only gets a one-off capital gains tax revenue benefit from those shareholders who are not underwater in their Santos investment. Also, the new foreign owner may invoke transfer pricing given it's an all-cash offer. Has happened before, as we know. For the merged large domestic entity, though, the government get ongoing company tax and maybe revamped royalties, keeping in mind the government's need for revenue sources disguised as the upcoming productivity roundtable. This would also allow gas from Western Australia, if there isn't any forthcoming on the east coast, to be shipped round to the import terminals, 3 of which are being built at the moment on the east coast. Would this get round the headache of east coast environmental concerns? Currently, there are 3 proponents developing LNG gas import terminals on the east coast. Squadron Energy is building one at Port Kembla, which they claim is finished, but they are waiting for the docking ship to arrive in 2027. Meanwhile, in Melbourne, Viva Energy, whose refinery the government already subsidises, is planning something and hopes to have it up by 2028. There is also a Dutch consortium that wants to put an LNG import terminal in Port Phillip Bay by 2029. So there are 3 players who hopefully would import domestic gas, saving on foreign imports. Will solar and wind be so ubiquitous that gas will be replaced by 8-hour batteries everywhere in the grid and customer sites? Or will there be enough water in the pumped hydro sites, or transmission finally arrives connecting the big 3 East Coast states along with South Australia and Tasmania, or with enough redundancy in renewable sites to keep it all going 24/7. At the moment, the Integrated System Plan has the gas going out to 2050. I suspect they're hedging their bets. So let's move on to the second half of this podcast. Jump over all those obstacles and move on to the end game when we reach 80% renewables. What does it look like from the perspective of the customer? It might be instructive to compare with the rollout of Australia's NBN. Granted, NBN was a much simpler project as the routes to the home were already there. So simplistically, you just had to take out the copper and replace it with fibre. Basically, NBN was a brownfields household connection story, while the energy transition is a big-time greenfields story, with new generation sites proliferating all over the place. Nevertheless, there are some similar considerations in terms of industrial, business and residential user outcomes. First, to the Spanish meltdown in April this year, which cascaded more rapidly than thought, about half an hour, with domestic sources and French interconnectors shutting down due to frequency instability. It has been said that the Spanish network did not have enough batteries to ensure stability and hold up the cascade of failures. Back to NBN. Telecommunication companies like to quote their networks, at least for business connections and main trunk routes, as having 4 nines reliability. What does that mean? It means that the network is up 99.9999% of the time. That's 4 nines in the decimal point. So this network is only expected to be down about 1 day a year on average. Note, I'm quoting the trunk part of the network and possibly those larger businesses that pay for trunk reliability. It basically gets built into the customer service guarantees. Let's assume that the Spanish network still doesn't bother putting batteries everywhere. Substations, interconnector sites, critical renewable solar and wind farms, etc. In passing, I do note that they have LNG import terminals, part of which is to re-export to their northern European neighbours, although it's argued that this gas is overpriced and oversupplied. Probably would happen here. So just for argument's sake, without widespread batteries in their network, let's say they call it 99.5% reliable. So on average, it will be down 1 to 2 days a year, and with a little bit of luck, probably only parts of the network. Is this acceptable? Just for exposition, let's say large business enterprises are told to look after themselves. Small and medium businesses are sold CSGs, customer service guarantees, receiving penalty payments for downtimes. Need to pay insurance on the network to get round reliability issues. Normal households could probably muddle through, maybe with the house battery or V2H saving the day, at least for the better off residential customers. But what about medical device households or disadvantaged households? Prior to the NBN rollout, the old analogue fixed line phone was powered by batteries at a telephone exchange. This was not a problem for NBN's FTTN sites, as there was still some copper to the home and batteries were moved to the FTTN node to keep the lifeline telephony going. However, for FTTP connected households, that's fibre all the way to the house, the battery had to be moved all the way to the house to give ostensibly the same fixed lifeline service. We're talking about pensioner customers that only have a telephone, the old analogue one, and no internet, and just want to keep continuity of service. Sure, most other people don't care about the NBN battery anymore with mobiles and UPS for internet. But what about medical device households? Do we see a proliferation in batteries in critical home devices and mandatory service visits to check or replace the batteries? Not unlike smoke alarms in rental units for those who are landlords out there. So once again, consumer surplus is transferred to producer surplus. Big batteries deeper in the network, proving too high a cost to cover all contingencies in what will be a highly distributed renewables network. Not ideal, but that might be the outcome. Every party for themselves. But don't worry, nimble entrepreneurs will put the batteries online and charge for monitoring services, and government will offer subsidies for the less well-off. And private health insurance companies might offer add-on premiums for medical device reliability monitoring for those who are better off. What else is new? Thanks for listening.